This is the brand new Wolfpack Marauder. He just came out in the medieval town square, and it's our first time getting one of them in a set in close to 30 years. The Wolfpack was a classic castle faction from the 90s that over the years people have come to love. To get one of these classic figs with a shield, you'd have to shell out over $20 for a really basic minifigure. Thankfully, this 2024 remake looks absolutely fantastic and will be available on Pick-a-Brick in just a few months from now. The Wolfpack only got 3 sets during their original run, so today we're going to remake all 3 of those classic sets with modern pieces. And we're also going to remake a custom member of the Wolfpack for every set that we build, each with their own unique backstories and weaponry. So let's get right into it. We're going to remake each set from smallest to largest, so first up is the Ghostly Hideout. This was a basic set with only a couple of pieces, so I think we can do a lot better ourselves. For this one, I think it's best if we modify the Forest Hideout gift with purchase. The set came out a couple of years ago and will work as a perfect base for what I want to do. Thankfully, I have 2 copies of the set, so we can compare how they look side by side after we're done. The original set features a lot of bright green colors that work great for the Forestman, but I think a more autumn-inspired color scheme will look even better for the Wolfpack. What I'm going to do is remove all of the leaves from the set so that we have a blank canvas to add our new leaves to. Now that all of the leaves are gone, we're still going to need to get rid of the bright green base plates. You could totally leave them here, but I'm going to swap them out to a dark tan color to better match the late autumn kind of cold vibe that I'm going for. The Wolfpack are a band of outlaws after all, so I don't think the cheerful green colors work too well for them. This also means that we're going to remove the Forestman's shields from the fortress. Now ideally, I'd place some Wolfpack shields in their place, but I just don't have any right now. I'm most likely going to be placing a pretty large order from Colt Bricks when he restocks his custom Wolfpack torsos and shields. But for now, I'm going to swap these Snot Bricks out for some regular 1x1s. Next, we need to get rid of this blue roof. Now, the Wolfpack did use some blue in their horse-drawn wagon, but I think a red roof is way more fitting here. The classic Wolfpack Tower set had red roofs, so I think it just makes more sense for them to be red in this mod. I basically made the same style of roof, but added in some studs because I personally like that added bit of texture. Okay, now we need to add our new leaves to the set. I'm going with a mix of bright light orange, dark red, and olive green. These 3 should look really nice together and will give us that nice autumn foliage look that I'm going for. I'm trying to find a nice balance between the dark red and bright light orange so that one doesn't overpower the other. Thankfully, the 2 colors complement each other super well, and I love how they look against the black trunk of the tree. The small olive green ones will serve as a nice accent to the ground, which we're going to build up next. For the base plate around the tree, I wanted to have some fallen leaves, a dead shrub, and just a feeling like there's a bunch of dead leaves all around the fortress. So for this, I'm going to scatter across some small orange and red leaves along with a mushroom and a dead shrub near the entrance. Finally, the last thing we'll place out here is a barrel with a couple of swords inside. And this is what the 2 sets look like side by side. I've kept pretty much everything the same, apart from the obvious color differences. The small tree has been replaced by a bush, and I've replaced the flowers with some fallen leaves. Oh, and of course we have the barrel that isn't present in the original. This is really such an easy mod, and I'd highly recommend you try this if you have an extra Forest Hideout set laying around somewhere. Okay, now that we're done with the first remake, let's create a Wolfpack Bandit to go along with it. This guy came to join the Marauders as a desperate young man. Before his time under the Wolfpack banner, he made his living as a highwayman, robbing any traveler, pilgrim, or priest that was so unlucky to enter his gaze, until that fateful day when he came upon the Wolfpack caravan. As the carriage slowly approached his spot, he leaped out from behind a tree, his crude crossbow gripped so tightly that it rattled under his nerves. He demanded every gold dragon, barrel of ale, and any other valuables they carried with them. The carriage abruptly stopped in its place. The hooded driver smiled as he dismounted, grabbed his massive double-bladed axe, and slowly walked up to the boy. From that day forward, he would be a marauder of the Wolfpack. Okay, 1 set done, 2 more to go. It originally came with 2 bandits and had a pretty well-built horse-drawn carriage for the time. Many of the wagons and carriages from the early years of LEGO Castle were pretty basic, but this one is actually a really solid build. So I'm going to try to do my best to modernize this set. I definitely want to keep the blue color in the back as I think it adds in a really nice pop of color. To start, I've built a really chunky skeleton for the rest of the carriage to be built on. I'm trying to keep with similar proportions to the original set, so hopefully this will give us a nice structure to do that with. We can now add on the wheels. I went with some metallic ones to break up the reddish-brown color that is all over this build. And now we need a way for the horse to attach to the carriage itself. I'm using one of those train connector pieces that you can attach to a ball joint. This makes it so that the horse can actually turn and makes the whole mock feel a little bit more modern. I'll attach it under the carriage so that the joint is hidden away. The other side of the mechanism has the attachment point for the horse. Next up, we need to build a seat for the Caravan Master. I'm going to build some rails on either side for decoration, and we'll place a regular Lego chair inside of it. We're also going to throw in this 2x3 part to fill in the gap behind the chair. This is an illegal building technique though, because it stresses the back of the chair a little bit. Okay, now we're going to start filling up the back of the wagon with cargo. As everyone knows, the Wolfpack are canonically alcoholics, so we're going to place this barrel of ale right behind the driver, for easy access when on the road. Around the barrel we'll place a bunch of glasses, bottles, and chalices. To keep all of this from falling out of the wagon, we're going to build up some pretty basic guardrails on either side, and for our next piece of cargo, I'm going to throw in a crate of treasure that was stolen from the Dragon Knights. It looks like they came away with some pretty sweet loot. There's a piece of gilded dragon armor, gold coins, and other artifacts all haphazardly thrown into a crate. This is going to go right in the middle of the carriage and will be put on an angle with a hinge piece. To give some more distinction between the crate of treasure and the ale, I'll place a loose brown tile on top. Switching over to the very back of the carriage, we're going to place some more blue bricks down to finish off the main structure of the carriage. Adding on 2 support beams with clips on either side, we can now add in our last bit of cargo. But first we have to build a compartment to hold it. The final cargo space is made up of 2 parts. The inside where we can slide in these crates of gold coins, and the outside cover that attaches by these 2 clips. The cover is made with some pretty simple snot pieces that allows for us to enclose the entire back of the wagon. There are a couple of gaps visible, but I'm really happy with how this looks. It opens and closes easily, and the crates can slide in and out because of the tiles underneath. It was pretty important for me to have an openable section of the wagon, because the original set had a false bottom that could open up on hinges. And I think my version keeps that original idea alive in an ever so slightly more realistic fashion. The caravan is nearly done. Now all we have to do is add in some more finishing touches. We'll add a sword on this clip and a red Wolfpack flag on the other. In the front of the wagon, we'll place a hanging lantern and a double-bladed axe that the leader of the Wolfpack carries. And we are done. I absolutely love how this turned out in the end, and I think I stayed true to the original set while still giving it that slight modern touch. I definitely deviated in the cargo that the wagon is carrying, but I tried to make it feel like a continuation of what the original designer was going for with the limited parts that they had in the 90s. Please let me know what you think of the design in the comments, and if you have any ideas to improve it, feel free to share them below. Now before we move on to the last set remake, the Wolfpack Tower, we first need to build the Caravan Master. Before becoming a member of the Wolfpack, this guy made his name as somewhat of a charlatan. Going from village to village under various pseudonyms, he would lie and scam his way into wealth. Years and years of doing this has made him more enemies than he could count, but has also made him more gold than entire kingdoms could ever dream of. The Wolfpack's leader got wind of this and offered him a job running caravans of stolen goods across the country. He has made the Wolfpack exceedingly rich and has afforded them enough gold to fund construction of a fortress sat right atop a river crossing. But before we build the final set left to remake, the Wolfpack Tower, I want to build something a little different. Word is spreading of the Wolfpack's exploits, and the kings and queens across the land are putting out bounties for any captured bandits. They wish to rid the bandit curse from the land at all costs, and are willing to pay to do so. Here is one bounty board that sprung up in a nearby village. The inspiration for this build came from a build that Marin Brick Design did a while ago. I wanted to make my own bounty board using some of the posters from the New Medieval Village, and this tile from Cult Bricks. And I am really happy with how this turned out. You should definitely check out Marin's design after this video though, it is much better looking than mine. So with the bounty board we have a traveling knight who has stumbled across the bounty and wishes to carry it out. He's not a rich or well-known knight, but he hopes to make something of himself by capturing the Wolfpack King by any means necessary. So him and his horse head off in search of this newly constructed bandit fortress. Okay, and for our final remake, the Wolfpack Tower. The original set had a pretty unique design for the time. Being an island fortress, it had a bridge that led from dry lands to the main tower, and it also got some cool features like an underground area with a hidden ghost. And we also got those red roofs for the first time in a set. To start, we'll build the front bridge. The original set's bridge was honestly great, but I never liked how large that front arch was. So I'm going to use a much smaller one that will give us a little look into the water below. We're going to keep the same black color on the walkways, and we'll use the new rounded 1x1s for the merlins on the bridge. I actually didn't have any of these in my collection, so I had to rip all of them off of my Lion Knight's castle. For detailing the walls of this fortress, I'm going to keep it really simple with masonry bricks and random studs sticking out of the wall. I don't want this mock to stray too far from the Lego-ish style look of sets like the Lion Knight's castle. I'm going to place another red flag, and now we can move on to the gatehouse. The front gate is the most eye-catching part of the original set in my opinion, so I wanted to capture that look in my version. This is what I made for the stonework. It's pretty simple, but the layered look I think looks really nice, especially once placed down in the MOC. Now that it's connected to the bridge, I need to make a red roof to cover it. I made another simple roof in a similar style to the forest hideout from earlier. I almost always prefer when some studs are showing. That flat look of tiles can kind of get a little bit boring in my opinion. It connects really easily to the stonework with a basic hinge connection. I love how this looks, and I think it's a really nice homage to the classic set. Moving on now to the main tower, this is the base plate that I came up with for it. It's about the same size as the other base plates, so it should give us enough space to make a pretty large tower. We'll connect the two together and we can finally work on the main tower. This is where I decided to deviate quite a lot from the original set. For the walkway into the main tower, I'm going to make some nice decorated archways on both sides, with a crab living underneath in the water. Now we can place these 3 modular walls down into the tower's frame. Adding on to that, we'll place down some black plates for the first floor. I'll add a weapon rack, barrel of swords, and a table that's holding a newly stolen artifact. I wanted the inside of the tower to be visible, so right here we're going to place a balcony. That will serve as a way for us to look inside, and as a way for us to access the basement. We can simply grip the balcony to remove the back wall that lets us into the very bottom floor. Down here we're going to throw in some hidden treasure and a skeleton. It was pretty important for me that there was a hidden loot room for the Wolfpack to hide all their stolen treasure, and this just worked out perfectly. Swapping back to upstairs though, we now need to build the rest of the tower. I continued with the same style that we used for the rest of the set, and I'm pretty happy with how it's looking, but we do need to build a red roof to top everything off. I made these 4 brown pillars that we can add to each corner. This will then allow for us to place a red roof atop it all. It's a basic roof no doubt, but it's red and that's what I was looking for. And now we are done, but not quite. We still haven't met the leader of the Wolfpack. This is the Bandit King, a secretive and humble man. Most wouldn't assume him to be a brutal crime lord. The underlings of the Wolfpack marauders enjoy speculating who he is and where he's from. Some imagine him as a warrior from the Far East. Others say he was raised by a family of orcs down south. But the one thing that they all agree on is that the day he dies, the Wolfpack dies with him. I had a great time putting all of these MOCs together. Remaking castle sets from the 90s is a ton of fun, mainly because you're afforded a lot of creative liberties with these more archaic sets. That's not a dig at the classic sets, they're just from a very different time. My favorite part though was coming up with the little backstories for all of the figs. It's always a treat making videos like this one, so I hope you enjoyed it. Please let me know which MOC was your favorite in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this video, why not subscribe? I'm trying to hit 20k by the end of May, and it'd mean a ton if you did. And as always, thank you so much for watching.